I've studied online for quite some time. I did my master's online. I did a blended master's, and mostly it was an online, and we had a few sessions face to face. So I would say that online learning is learner centered. It has a lot of responsibility that is put on the learner, and therefore it requires one to be self-directed. It requires a learner to take the initiative, but also it requires a lot of support from the university, because in most cases the isolation that comes with online learning, with no support, the dropout rates can be high, and completion rates low. So I see online learning being learner-centered and requiring a lot of support from the universities or from the institutions that offer such programs.
What I can think about in that regard on the side of the university administrators, I think they should consider to look into issues of policy and issues of like offering incentives to the people who are involved in online education to find it rewarding, because it's somehow a new thing to most of the implementers. I think they need to do some more in terms of encouraging and interesting people to take on online education, even to teach online, because in some of our universities, it's not something that's been so much welcomed by most of the faculty members. But I think if the university administrators do more of a sensitization, continue to do trainings such that people can have the necessary skills, and also some sort of awards and incentives, I think that one will encourage so much to take online learning to the next level.
As institutions, I feel we are moving in a good direction. We shouldn't, because this period of COVID has taught us many things. And now that it's not gone but subsidized, most institutions are now moving back to traditional instruction. So I believe as universities and educators, we should keep pushing the agenda for online learning and teaching. We should not go back to the old style just because COVID is gone.
Welcome to EdTech Mondays. Our focus this month is on e-learning at the university level. During the COVID-19 lockdowns, 77% of universities in Africa were forced to shut down, making the number one of the highest rates of closures in the world. The closures greatly slowed down learning and reduced the learning outcomes and margins for African students. In this episode, we want to speak to experts on how digital learning can be incorporated into higher learning and the strategies and investments to make that possible. Thank you so much for joining us, our experts, today. I'll allow you guys to introduce yourselves to my audience, and I'll start with you, Haula.
My name is Baiga Haula, a petroleum engineer by profession. I'm working with Nexus International University as the programs coordinator, which is a fully online university. Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond. My name is Gerald Odur. I'm currently working as a technology officer for GS Virtual Learning. I'm a software engineer by profession. And GS Virtual Learning is an online company that was set up during the COVID outbreak, just to spark innovation in EdTech to ensure continuity of learning. We have worked with the groups in the K-12 area, and now we're also looking out of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond. My name is Virenji Anna. I'm a finalist at Macquarie University, and I'm pursuing a bachelor's degree in information systems and technology. Thank you.
Anna, I think we'll start with you. During the lockdowns, how did that affect your learning at the university?
At the beginning, of course, education was shut down. At the university, we're not studying at all for some good months. Then after some time, that's when they brought in online studies using the different platforms like Zoom, Mowele, that's for our university, Macquarie University. Yes.
Was the learning any different from the physical learning?
Yes, it was different because this was something new. who were studying online, something we're not used to, requiring us to use the laptops or smartphones. And it was kind of hard for the first time. It was our first time doing this. We had never used it. It was hard for us. But then as time went by, we got used to this and actually liked it.
I should ask you the harder question. Were you more attentive in the online lessons than you were with the offline lessons? Or do you think that your learning outcomes were better online than they were offline?
Of course, attention was so minimal. You know, you're at home, so many distractions. But then you're studying, they call you, you're doing this, someone comes calling out your name. But then as time went by, we managed paying attention. Yeah, went on like that.
All right. Haula, your university is completely online. What was the experience like for you guys? Did you have any break or there was continuity in education all through?
During COVID, we actually did continue with the studies. During that time, we even got a project that taught students online, Ugandans, to do the greenhouse gas inventory. So we had different participants from Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Agriculture, NFA. So we did continue studying. It was a good time for them because they were not doing much. All they were doing is studying and staying at home. So we did continue, even with the continuing students, we did continue with them.
Gerald, I want to come to you because from the two of them, of course, innovation really was the problem here. A lot of the universities didn't know how to work with e-learning platforms. What kind of innovative space was created in these last 3 years during the lockdown that allowed for quick adoption of e-learning?
Thank you for that, Raymond. I think the biggest thing that came about during that time was the way innovation normally happens is according to a diffusion of innovations, it takes a couple of steps. There is normally a knowledge step. The knowledge step is where there's a talk. There's information about an innovation. And in this case, it's EdTech. Then after that, you find the part where people are convinced to take on these innovations. And after that, people are expected, people then make a choice. They make a decision whether to adopt this or not. And from there, we find implementation. And after the implementation, you'll find 3 different groups. There's the early adopters who remain at the end. And then there is people who were early adopters, but they dropped it. And then there's people who are late adopters, and then they took it. Then there are people who are late adopters who didn't take it at all. So in Uganda or in Africa, most of this was kind of mashed together. So you find that after the education, after the EdTech, after this break, after the COVID break, there's a bit of there's a drop in innovation, in the uptake of EdTech. So to answer your question, for universities, since all this was mashed up, people actually didn't have time to learn. They didn't have time to appreciate all this technology. And that brought about a case where they're not taking it on very much. If you talk to university students right now, you'll find that a vast majority of them just use it for accessing their notes, putting a few assessments here and there, and also you will not find anything more than that, actually.
A little different from what you're saying. For us, when they start, there's always an orientation. As soon as you get onto the platform, we give you an orientation class and teach you how it works. It's of course a crash course, but the orientation is always there. And since it's fully online, we do have platforms that are not WhatsApp, but are on the learning platform itself. They're called wikis or forums where the questions are put by the tutor when it's not class time. On normal days when there's no class time, they put a question, the students reply to it. Yeah, so we keep it engaging. You have to keep it engaging for the students so that they don't get off the platform.
Was this the case for all your classmates? Were they all able to adapt to online learning? Or did the learning outcomes become different
Not everyone adapted to this. I mean, we were in different places where we stay, our home areas. Some are in town, some are in villages. So it so happened that those who would access these materials, like laptops or smartphones, they're the only ones who would attend class. And then there are these who didn't even know that studying was ongoing. They really missed out on that. So the outcome wasn't so good because just a few students turned up for the studies and other students were left out.
Gerard, education is one of those areas where it must be equal for everyone. I mean, if you're attending a class, you all must be present in the class to benefit from it. The next lesson is another class altogether. How do you structure innovation in such a way that early adopters, late adopters are all on the same board and moving together and their learning outcomes improving on e-learning?
Okay, I think the first thing I would do is have a sort of assessment for everyone. So you find a needs assessment. The people who are maybe in far-to-reach areas will also, have their own custom solution depending on that. From that assessment, then you can customize your learning experience. There's some people who prefer to have live lessons. Then there's others who prefer to have recorded lessons. And then there's some people who want a blended system where there's some live lessons and then there's some that are recorded. Yes, so it starts all from the needs assessment.
Give us your experience around structuring orientation for students to adopt to e-learning. How does that orientation happen in such a way that it's broad and it allows for everyone to be an adopter to online learning?
A Zoom link is sent out. You carry out first of all, people don't know how to use Zoom. So as you send out the link, you give them directions on how to use it. Always be available because they'll give you a call. No, the link is not working, the password has refused. So you always have to be available and to help them log in. Once they've logged in, the Zoom is a different package and the learning platform is a different package. So once they've logged in, you teach them how to use Zoom, raise up your hand, unmute, mute to talk. You then teach them how to use the learning management system itself, where the notes are, where the Zoom things are as well. So it's a learning curve for them.
But speak to us also about equality in learning outcomes for people that would love to have the kind of education that you offer, who, as she said, don't have the kind of infrastructure. They don't have laptops, they don't have mobile phones, or they're in places where the internet access isn't as fast as others. I presume if you're doing a Zoom link, it might take longer for some people. How do you onboard such kinds of people?
That's a bit of a challenge. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So some people still don't have internet in their areas. You get a student in South Sudan and they say, I won't be able to attend class on Monday. So what we tell them is the class will be recorded and sent to you, and you will be able to log it, to click the link and view what was pre-recorded before. But apart from that, there are some challenges, of course, internet access, people that don't have phones. Mm. We encourage those to come to the university because they have computers and internet free for them to use. But apart from that, you can do so much. Mm. Yeah.
What we did, in this case here, what we did as GS Virtual Learning is, I wouldn't say partnered, but we talked to Airtel, and they gave us an interesting bundle that was customized for learning. It was safe and secure, and we would give it as part of our package to all our learners. And in that case, they were able to attend, and they really loved it.
Okay, that's good. If we will come to you before we go to the break, from your experience attending physical class and attending online class, if you could rewind to the time that you were joining university, which one would you pick and why would you pick that one?
Personally, I'd pick online because it's convenient. I mean, you can study from anywhere and at any time. It's convenient in a way that even when you don't understand something, these lessons are recorded. So you can revisit and replay. If you didn't understand a concept, you can understand it. You can study at any time, unlike physical, whereby if a lecture is at 8, it's at 8. You're not there by 8, you're missing out. And what is taught won't be taught again. It's gone. But with a case with online, you can go and rewind. Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Let's take a very short break. We get back and continue the conversation for online learning in higher universities of Africa. Thank you so much for staying with us on EdTech. We're speaking about online learning at higher university, and we're speaking about the challenges, but we want to move towards the solutions. You did mention partnerships with the private sector. How different would you love the private sector to partner with learning institutions to make sure that there's continuity of learning from your experience?
Yeah, so the first thing I'll say is when we talked to Airtel, unfortunately, they didn't give us a partnership. So I think the first thing I would say is they should be open to these partnerships. And these partnerships should be a two-way, give and take. I've seen areas where I would like learning to happen, far away from the cities, and there's no infrastructure. If we had a partnership with, say, Airtel, and they would help us go and, work on the signals in such places, they would really help. That's one facet I would talk about. Then another facet I would mention is depending on what they're doing. So we're currently working with a partner who has access to a lot of schools all over the country. And what they're doing is they have a lot on their plate, and our part of it is we're training teachers. So they offer us chances to train teachers, and while they also ask for content and all this from us. Those are the kinds of partnerships I would like to see.
What kind of private partnerships would you love to ease online learning for students that come to university?
First, we'll look at the challenges that were internet and the devices. The internet, I think Airtel has a package for students, but if they could broaden it a bit or make it cheaper a bit, and they should go to those further points of the country, because there are people that would like to study, maybe have a gadget, but the internet is extremely bad. So if they could do that, I think that would be very helpful. The gadgets, because there are people that want to study but don't have access to a laptop or a phone, because with online learning you can learn on your phone even. So if the government could help and give out a few of the gadgets, that would be very helpful.
Just to answer to that, as GS Virtual Learning, we have a package, we have a product called Own and Pay Over Time, which provides students and instructors with loans, soft loans for getting. We actually get the gadgets, we give them to them, and then they pay over time, up to a year. And this is running. We have been running it for half a year now. We've had over 60 people who have been interested, and the numbers keep growing. So we'd be very interested.
That's a really brilliant initiative. How would you love for private sector to come in and make your learning experience easier? I know that you're a finalist, but you might return for a master's degree and find the same problems. How would you love for that process to be smoothed out for you?
First of all, I would like for them to create awareness, training among the students. Some students are not offering IT courses, so some of them don't even know how to use a computer. or they have smartphones, but they can't use it to study. So if we had these training programs to train the different students in universities, even from those doing arts courses, to learn how to use these gadgets, that would be helpful so that it would make online learning easier, much easier than it is right now. Yeah.
Haula, the problem she speaks about isn't just unique to students. I know that during the lockdowns, it also affected lecturers. There were lecturers who the entire life had never had to do an online lecture, and all of a sudden, you have to tell them to throw all their content online. How do you resolve such a challenge?
Because the pedagogy for teaching online and teaching live classes is different. So there's a short course called Pedagogy on Distance Learning or Online Learning. So those tutors should take an initiative to learn how to digitalize content to be able to suit online learning. Yes.
Do you agree with that the content has to be like specific to online learning? It's different from physical learning, and in which case, of course, you now have to retool the lecturer to start looking at their content differently.
I do agree with her that the way that people are taught online is definitely different from the way they are taught physically. You find nuances. If someone is physically available, they have to be there at a certain time and at a certain space. Offline learning happens in a space and in a time, while online learning is kind of different. It's, ubiquitous. The word is ubiquitous. So the way you teach it is different. The kinds of assessments you'd give would be different. The way you'd carry yourself would be different. So I do agree with her that when trainers are getting onto this, when instructors are getting onto this, they have to be taught, they have to be trained. There needs to be a training plan for that. And not just the trainers, but the students, and then also if there is any other people at their homes who need to also be involved in this.
As a consumer of this education, did you feel like your lecturers needed to do a little bit more to engage you, keep you attentive, or assess you better? And how different would it have been done to keep your attention together in the classroom?
Well, first of all, our lecturers were using different kinds of different methods to bring the work to us. Some of them could record and actually just share the recordings. Some of them did it real time, Zoom, talking as this. But then, of course, they had to do some improvements to keep us interactive. I mean, so a lecturer just comes and starts talking, not asking questions. You're not keeping us in the class, like literally you're just talking, not allowing us to also contribute. That was kind of a challenge. I mean, someone could just log on to the class, leave the gadget there, does their own stuff. Because they know the lecturer won't ask anything. They won't engage them. They won't even know whether, okay, Anna is logged on, but is she really studying or not? You get? So that one was hard. So something had to be done about that. Yeah, keeping us interactive in class.
Haula, and I want us to now get to the concluding parts of this. You've run online learning for a period of time now, and it's, I presume, been successful for you guys. What are the lessons that you've picked from it that other African young entrepreneurs, innovators in this space, learners in this space, what are some of those lessons that you leave with them that they need to take up on to make it a success?
For the innovators, because learning online alone could be difficult depending on how you take it. So apart from the forums and the wikis, we should have more engaging classes. There's a Zoom I attended, and there was the break had dancing chairs. I mean, they put music and then they dance around the chair. You're alone, but the different cameras are showing. So it should be more. They should come up with more engaging things or activities to include the students.
I would start with localizing content. So make sure that you're examples are relevant locally. Then another thing I would say is we underlook training. Even we may not know what we don't know. I think that every institution should have a training program, a training plan. And this should be in line, it should be towards enabling knowledge of these online learning experiences. And that will foster innovation in that space. So another thing I would say is the government and institutions need policies that favor online learning. If these policies are not in place, then we'll have an issue where people don't know what is happening. Everyone will have a haphazard experience. Yes, so I would say we need those.
Can I add something? Yes. For the lectures online to be more interactive, I'd suggest that maybe lecturers make the class more interactive, like they share their content before. Let me say, assign students work so that when class is on, everyone has something to say. Or maybe group them and maybe put us into the breakout rooms and then we have a chance to interact. Know that if you're not there, someone will know that you're not there. So if at all they make us busy, that would increase on the attention among the students and also interaction with the lecturer.
You're doing great at advising the lecturers. What advice would you give to your fellow students around learning online?
Well, of course, I'd also tell them to pay more attention in class. I'm talking out of experience, whereby this lecture is just so boring. And you feel like, let me just get out of it. And you just leave the device on. I mean, my name shows that I'm in class, but I'm actually not. But if we pay more attention to this, it will be better for us to adopt more and actually find it interesting. For those who haven't found it interesting yet, yeah.
We can start now.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We've been speaking to experts who are working within the online and e-learning space for higher universities across Africa. Of course, 77% of African universities were not able to continue their learning during the COVID-19 lockdowns. And the idea is to have those people continue their learning. So this show is really targeted at those people. And EdTech Monday, of course, comes to you monthly. It's an innovation from Innovation Village and the MasterCard Foundation to enable people within the EdTech space to innovate, to talk to each other, and to draw up even policies that help them improve EdTech outcomes from Africa. Thank you so much for watching us, and have yourselves a good day.